Youssef Bey Karam was a Lebanese Maronite notable who fought in the 1860 Civil War and led a rebellion in 1866 to 1867 against the Ottoman Empire rule in Mount Lebanon. His proclamations have been interpreted as an early expression of Lebanese nationalism. Birth, childhood and family. Youssef Karam was born to Sheikh Boutros Karam and Mariam in Aden, Lebanon. Raised in a family of 6 children, Catherine, Teresa, Rose, Eva, Mikhail and Youssef, his mother was strong, virtuous, possessed a strong personality, and had a strong influence on her son. Youssef was a smart boy, with green eyes and fair complexion. He loved his hometown Aden, with its majestic mountains and thick forests. He was French-educated, and at the age of 7, he was well-versed in Arabic and French languages. He trained in unarmed combat, horse riding, shooting and fencing. His education in French helped him establish strong links with the West, especially France. Youssef has a special appreciation of Arabic, which was exemplified in many poetic writings. His father has also decided to teach him the equestrian art. Sheikh Ahmed el-Hasham from Akura has taught him swordsmanship and shooting. According to his teachers, Karam was excellent at horsemanship, equestrian art and fighting with nude sticks of palm. He fought Youssef Aga Chantiri at Prince Bachir Square in Bekfalia, the Prince Ali Mansour Abalama and Hannah Bey Abi Sabit the Prince Square in Bramana, and snatched victory from the three. Biography. In 1840, Youssef, aged 17 years, fought alongside his father and elder brother against the Egyptian armies then occupying Lebanon in the battles of Huna and Baizun. Youssef showed remarkable skill as a warrior and leader, and his reputation and influence in the area steadily grew, so much so that in 1846, when his father died, Youssef succeeded him as ruler instead of his elder brother. Youssef ruled with fairness, and his credibility and influence as a soldier and politician continued to grow. Youssef Karam became the acknowledged leader of the district, and in time one of the most powerful personalities in Lebanese politics. And although politically and militarily very powerful, he remained ever loyal to his faith and to the church. Karam's loyalty to the church and to Bekirka, the seat of the Maronite Patriarch, never wavered, and this loyalty was to have far-reaching implications in future years. In 1858, when Tanis Shafan and the farmers of the predominantly Maronite Keserwan district staged an uprising against the Maronite sheikhs and landlords, the Kazan family, the Maronite Patriarch, conscious of Karam's influence and his loyalty to the church, appealed to Karam to save the sheikhs and restore peace to the area. Together, they negotiated a settlement to the conflict, but the class division in feudal Kesrawin remained. Future conflicts, however, were not to be so peacefully settled. During that period, when the Ottomans ruled Lebanon, there existed a certain amount of distrust between the Druze and Maronite communities. The Muslim Druze felt threatened by the growing presence of the Christians Maronites in the traditional area of Mount Lebanon. The suspicion and distrust between the two communities was allowed to be fueled by petty and personal conflicts until September 1859, when finally, open conflict broke out between the Druze and Maronite communities at Beit Meiri, a town of different religious denominations. Karam reacted by calling a meeting of community leaders at the village of Ban, and concluded an agreement with the Muslim ruler of Tripoli, North Lebanon, Abd el-Hamid Karami, to keep North Lebanon free from any religious conflict. In May 1860, however, conflict again broke out between the two communities, and a number of Maronite monks and villages were massacred. This time Karam reacted by raising an army of 500 men to protect the Maronites in the Mount Lebanon area. On the 2nd of June 1860, Karam and his men marched to Bukirka and offered to the Maronite Patriarch the protection of Maronites. In Karam's mind, however, there was no doubt that the conflict between the Druze and the Maronites was being nurtured by Khurshid Pasha, the Ottoman governor. Khurshid's culpability in the massacres is debated, as he had previously urged the British to stop arming Druze groups and the French to stop arming the Maronites. Khurshid Pasha saw Karam's calls for Lebanese self-rule as a threat to Turkish interests in Lebanon and the area, and convinced the European ambassadors that Turkish presence in Lebanon was essential to maintain peace between warring factions in Lebanon. The French ambassador to Lebanon convinced Karam to halt his march at Baikfalia, near Kesawan, in return for guarantees of safety for all Christians offered by Khurshid. Several days later, however, Christian villages were attacked by Druzes from Mount Lebanon and the Hauran. Karam and his men retaliated against Druze and Turkish forces, and succeeded in saving the majority of Christian towns and villages in the Kisrawan area. Christian presence in the area was therefore established. Eventually, French ships reached the port of Beirut with supplies and the Turkish sea blockade ended. Peace was then restored whilst a new constitution was drafted to provide how Lebanon was to be governed. In the interim, two provisional governors were appointed to rule Lebanon, one to rule Christians and the other to rule the Muslims. Karam was appointed the Christian Kaymakam on the 17th of November 1860 until the 1861 agreement of the Reglement Organique, which would establish a single governor for the whole mountain. Again, Karam ruled with distinction, restoring law and order, reorganizing public institutions and conducting an honest government. French occupied Beirut and parts of Mount Lebanon until mid-1861. As Kaymakam, Karam tendered his resignation a number of times in protest against what the new institutional system devised, the Organic Law, in 1861 and 1864. The new statute created substantial autonomy for Mount Lebanon within the Ottoman Empire. Executive powers were vested in an Ottoman governor of Catholic religion, nominated by the Sublime Porte and the representatives of European powers. First exile, opposing the new internationally sanctioned status quo, and angered at the idea that the new governor would not be a native, Karam refused to stick to the Organic Law, insisting for complete home rule for Mount Lebanon. The first governor, Daoud Pasha, then issued an order exiling Karam to Turkey, where he remained until 1864. After he was allowed to return to his hometown, Karam championed the end of the Mutas Arifiyu system, the abolition of levies, and the redeployment of Ottoman troops out of Mount Lebanon. Many battles followed, one of the earliest being at Mameltine, Journier, on the 6th of January 1866. The Karam was attending Mass at St. Dumit Church when regular Ottoman troops attacked his men stationed outside the church. A fierce battle followed, and Karam, aided by neighboring villages, defeated the Ottoman troops. Karam immediately wrote to Istanbul and European governments detailing the causes of conflict, and claiming his people's right to defend themselves. Daoud Pasha, however, was determined to rid himself of Karam and deal a fatal blow to the Lebanese nationalist movement. Subsequently, Karam settled down in the village of Bonacci with his 800 armed fighters. In January 21, the commander Amin Pasha entered Zedgata leading 3,800 soldiers affiliated to the regime, 300 from Dragoon and 200 from Cossacks. The medical commander joined Amin Pasha along with 800 Lebanese soldiers and armies from Tripoli, which followed the regime. Amin Pasha, his officers and his chiefs of staff took off the doors of Youssef Bey Karam's house and resided there. In January 25, Amin Pasha left Zedgata with his soldiers, after he has burned many of its houses. The following day, Amin Pasha called Karam to meet him in St. Jacob in Khamzada. Karam accepted and was there in the morning of the 27th of the month. He showed his submission and put his sword between the hands of Amin Pasha as a sign of respect for the Turkish authority. The commander understood then that Karam was not revolting against the government. Nevertheless, this meeting did not come to a happy end, since Daud Pasha refused all the settlements between him and Karam. Thus, Amin Pasha ordered his soldiers to eliminate Karam. Regime's armies reached Bonacci. They were around 10,000 soldiers. The first moment he saw from afar the dust caused by the horses and the sparkle of the swords. Karam ordered his men to go hide and hole up behind rocks, so they can counterattack the enemy. Karam and his friends were valiant, skilled and courageous. They fought desperately in a battle which lasted 12 hours, the fact that surprised the enemy. Karam defeated the army and snatched the victory. Enemies lost about 1,000 soldiers, between dead and injured. As for Karam and his friends, they took 600 rifles and 30 barrels of gunpowder. Unfortunately, 7 of Karam's friends were killed during the combat. The Battle of Bonacci, between Karam and Daud Pasha's soldiers, was different from the others. A battle where courage beat the huge number of soldiers, the skillful and well-trained Aram army against a horde of Edenians. This horde did not have ammunitions and new weapons, but the only thing that was encouraging it was its deep love for Lebanon and its intent to defend its rights. In Beirut, however, Daud Pasha rallied support from the European ambassadors, who actively opposed Karam and refused to recognize any government he may form. Second exile. At a meeting at Bikirka, the French ambassador ordered Karam in the name of Napoleon III to leave Lebanon in return for French guarantees of safety for his men and entourage. Karam was warned that to refuse would mean to place his men and the welfare of his people in jeopardy. On Thursday, the 31st of January 1867, Karam left Lebanon on board a French ship bound for Algeria. Karam traveled from Algeria to European capitals explaining the plight of the Lebanese people and stressing the desire to form a sovereign and independent state. Whilst there, he wrote many letters and memoirs in support of self-rule for Lebanon. Most of his writings have survived to this day. Karam also traveled to European capitals seeking economic help for Lebanon. He offered to mortgage all his personal Lebanese holdings, amounting to 5 million francs, to French businessmen in return for the establishment of coal mines on a railroad network in Lebanon. Death. April 4, 1889. Karam suffered from pneumonia worse than the first one. He called his private doctor Paul Schneis, who examined him and declared that our hero's life is in danger. After 2 days he had a heart attack. It was his last hours. Doctors asked his friends to stay next to him. Karam knew that he was going to die, but what hurt him the most was that he was going to die away from his homeland. He thought of his funeral, thus he revealed to his confessor, the Father Karubim, that he wants a decent funeral and burial. He gave him an amount of money for this purpose. He gave as well the Baroness Vitry another amount in order to buy candles and flowers and put them on his coffin and tomb. On the morning of the 7th of April 1889, Youssef Bey Karam died near Naples, Italy. His last words were, "God, Lebanon." The Italian hosts place a placard on his grave that reads, "This is the resting place of the Youssef Bey Karam, the Lebanese prince." Even though he was never officially a prince, this title was bestowed upon him affectionately due to his stature, behavior, and moral values. The news of his death overwhelmed Lebanon in general and Zedgat and the north in particular with grief. On the 14th of September 1889, his body was brought back to his homeland, the land of his youth, resistance, victories and pride. He was finally in Eden, where thousands gathered to honor the hero of Lebanon. His body was later placed in a specially built coffin with a glass top inside St. George Cathedral. Hundreds of thousands of Lebanese have since visited Karam's resting place. In addition to paying the respect, they pay homage to the spirit of Youssef Bey Karam, who sacrificed himself so that Lebanon shall live. Battles. Mameltine and AAFAs, Sunday the 6th of January 1866. Great Battle of Bonacci, Sunday the 28th of January 1866. Sebhel, Thursday the 1st of March 1866. Ema and Anaya, Wednesday the 14th of March 1866. Wadi en Nusor, Thursday the 22nd of March 1866. Ito and Farfu, Friday the 15th of June 1866. Hadith, Wednesday the 4th of July 1866. Ein El Jaws and Beach Enata, Saturday the 7th of July 1866. Ein Khan and Wadi Miziara, Monday the 20th of August 1866. Eden, Saturday the 15th of December 1866. Ajbay and Arjez, Thursday the 10th of January 1867. Wadi El Salab, Thursday the 17th of January 1867. Beliefs. Many of his beliefs were extracted from, among other sources, an open letter in which Karam calls for the establishment of a League of Nations, or Human Rights Association, as he called it. Karam explained that this would be an international organization, which would work for world peace and guarantee the rights of small nations. A letter to Emir Abdul Qadir al-Jazairi encouraging him to liberate all Arabs from the Ottoman Empire and then establishing a form of Arab League, where each member state would retain sovereignty and independence. Body. In the beginning of May 1889, all the Bey of Karam family sent a delegation to Italy in order to return the Dean's body to Lebanon. After severe negotiations, in which the French ambassador in Constantinople interfered, the delegation was able to have a permit from the Sublime Porte to return Karam's body to Lebanon. The coffin was removed from the grave and it was in a good condition. When the coffin was opened, Karam's body appeared in a very good condition as well. His face was intact, his clothes, ornamented with gold, were not damaged or impaired in any way. His corpse was not mummified, because when his nephews learned about his death, they sent a telegraph with an amount of money to Sheddad Bey Hobish, the Turkish consul in Napoli, asking him to take care of mummifying their uncle's body. Many weeks passed between the death and the mummification negotiations. Therefore, Sheddad Pasha replied in a telegraph saying that the doctors examined the body and decided that the mummification is absolutely impossible. In 2012, after 123 years since the death of Youssef Bey Karam, the body has suffered some slight decay because of humidity inside the coffin. Accordingly, Youssef Bey Karam Foundation called the medical Italian delegation, which has examined the body in 2002 after an individual initiative taken by Mnagi Khalasi and Syed Farshik. The Italian delegation proposed a project for the body's restoration. The foundation, along with Eden Zedgarta parish, agreed that the parish will take charge of supervising and implementing the plan of the body's restoration, not to mention that coordinating with the foundation is necessarily with every step the parish is going to take. The Zghartawi emigrant Edmund Abshi presented a donation of €200,000 for the complete restoration of the body. The restoration workshop began in March 2013 and ended in June 2013. The body was returned to St. George Cathedral in Eden inside a new air and water isolator vitreous coffin, allowing everyone to see it. Legacy. On the 11th of September 1932, a bronze statue of Karam was erected in his memory outside the Cathedral of St. George, Eden. This statue was made by his namesake Youssef Bey. In 2008, Rita Karam, daughter of Minister and MP Salam Bey Karam, founded the Youssef Bey Karam Foundation. In November 2014, the Ministry of Communication in conjunction with Lebanon Post has finally issued formal stamps in recognition of the hero of Lebanon Youssef Bey Karam. Sami Saab designed the stamp in coordination with the Youssef Bey Karam Foundation Archive Collection and partnership with USEK. On 3 June 2013, Youssef Bey Karam Foundation signed a cooperation agreement with the University of Saint-Esprit Catholic about collecting and conserving the archive of Youssef Bey Karam. According to the agreement, the Phoenix Center for Lebanese Studies coordinates with the Youssef Bey Karam Foundation for archive management and documents archiving, and also prepares media campaign to announce the archive.